1 year ago I did the first review on the Xepta Autobalance, and it took me this long to talk about it again because I'm not in a good position to do a proper review about it. The reason is I'm not using the equipment as it was meant to be used. Just the same, I'm going to talk about it and hopefully you can learn a bit from my experience. The main thing is the Autobalance is not my main source of dosing to the tank. If you have a large tank, just dosing a 3-part solution becomes too expensive. So I dose 5 to 7 liters of Kalkwasser per day depending on the evaporation. I have a calcium reactor and then the Autobalance. I will first talk about the testing. I can only verify the kH measurements of the Autobalance against the alkalinity test from Salifert, and I never saw any discordance between them. Early in January, I decided to give Vibrant a shot to try to get rid of bubble algae. At some point during this process, I began losing corals. It was intermittent and with different severities, and then I noticed a pattern. Alk spikes of as little as 0.5 dkh were enough to cause SPS to burn, especially Montiporus. The alk spikes were caused by Vibrant itself, and Vibrant stressed the corals and they consumed less alk, causing it to spike. I managed to control this issue by dropping the target kH of the tank from 8.5 to 7.5. and keeping a closer eye on alkalinity by increasing the number of daily tests. I don't think I would have been able to go on dosing Vibrant for 4 months if I didn't have the Autobalance, or at least some other alk monitor. The Autobalance also reports on pH of the sample, and I compared it against the Senai. The difference was huge, but since my main source of alkalinity is the calcium reactor, I'm much more inclined to believe the lower values provided by the Autobalance. My main issue with the Autobalance has always been the clock. You can't tell it to test or dose at specific times. If you instruct it to test 6 times per day, it doesn't perform the tests every 4 hours. Instead, it performs each test 4 hours after it finished the last test. Since each test takes roughly 4 minutes, Autobalance will perform a test every 4 hours and 4 minutes. This means that if it performs a test at 8 am on Monday, on Tuesday it will perform the test at 8:25 am. If you use Autobalance as it was intended to be used, which is Autobalance as the only alkalinity supplementation method, this won't cause any problem. That is, other than mess with your obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. In my case, it has consequences. I dose Kalkwasser 24 times during the night. Sometimes, Autobalance will collect water from the tank while Kalkwasser is being dosed. This of course will give a false high reading of both pH and kH. The same can happen when Autobalance decides to dose. It can dose at the same time the Kalkwasser is being dosed and potentially cause precipitation. I doubt that they will ever change this clock issue. I don't know exactly what's the dosing algorithm followed by Autobalance, but I know it takes the tank's history into account. In my experience, this is a bit dangerous and maybe not just in my case. When for whatever reason alk spikes in the tank and raises above your target kH, Autobalance will still dose based on what it believes is the tank normal consumption. It takes a couple of more readings to finally stop dosing. By that time, alk has spiked even higher. If you have a situation where, for whatever reason, alk consumption in the tank has halted, you don't want any more dosing, you want it to stop immediately. I'm not sure how other equipments work and deal with this type of situation, but in my case, and especially for this reason alone, I don't put more of the responsibility of supplying alk to the tank on the hands of Autobalance. Instead, I tend to use its dosing abilities regulated to the minimum, and I set the kH target 0.2 higher than what I really want it to be. I now want kH at 8, so I set the kH target at 8.2. Some of the previous problems with the clock have been solved. Previously, at the end of some months, the calendar would go back to 1970 and the autobalance would stop testing. That was fixed. I live in an area with frequent short duration power cuts. This caused minor issues with the autobalance, doing extra tests every time the power resumed and sometimes not reconnecting to the router. I solved both these issues by connecting autobalance and the router to an UPS. I've been using the cloud, which allows you to check the test results while you're away from home. It makes the times when you're away from the tank for a few days much more relaxing. It's extremely useful. When you have a young tank, ALK doesn't change that quickly. In a tank filled with large corals where ALK can fall over 2 kH per day, an ALK monitor is a real asset. If I didn't have an ALK monitor, I would be testing manually every day. The cloud is still in beta at this time and it doesn't send you alarms or allow you to control the unit when you're away from home. I have connected the calcium reactor to a Wi-Fi plug so I can control it when I'm away. The app hasn't changed much. It's ugly, but it does its job. If I had to guess, I would say Xepta has a solid team of engineers and a part-time software developer that is still in school. Why the heck are the most used functions buried under 4 or 5 menu layers? Xepta says there's no problem in returning the sampled water back to the tank, and I did it for many months without noticing any problems. The reagent is a weak acid and it will only cause a slight fall in the tank's alkalinity, and the autobalance will correct it, of course. But one day, I was in my storage room and I looked at an empty 4-liter jug of reagent, and I thought to myself, over these months I've poured 4 liters of acid into the tank. I began wondering about another issue. The acid causes ALK to go down, but it doesn't cause calcium to go down as well. So over time, it will cause an imbalance because autobalance will dose both. This can be easily corrected though, because you can adjust the dosing proportion between the ALK component and the other 2 components. Just the same, I've been throwing the sampled water away since the last few months. I dump it into a 5-liter bottle and I have an alarm that sounds when the water reaches the top of the jug. The damn thing has already sounded at 4 AM. One year after its release, Autobalance is still the lowest cost solution available for alkalinity monitoring and dosing of a 3-part solution. There are now solutions that can control a calcium reactor, but I still would not use them. They control the calcium reactor by turning it on and off, and that's just too simplistic. The KH controller needs to be able to fine-tune the calcium reactor output, not just turn it on or off. I believe choosing the Xepta was the best decision at the time. And I will only consider another option when there's something that can fine-tune a calcium reactor and doesn't cost more than the tank itself. Once again, thanks for watching.